Hello and welcome to Sustainability Matters. I'm Agatha Afemike, your host. On this show, we delve into latest developments and innovative solutions in sustainability. Each episode will bring you expert insights, impactful stories, and practical tips to help you make a difference. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. You're good to go now, please, sure. Let's go ahead.
Now it's good. Let's have it. Let's have the talk.
Awesome. So I feel like you've already given a breakdown of how your day has gone. Let me not bother you anymore with that. The flyer kind of explains itself, but it'd be great to have a little introduction of who the Gen Z lawyer, who the Gen Z youth representative is. So you can give us a bit of an introduction and we'll take it up from there. I think your mic is muted in case you're speaking.
Okay. So I hope I'm audible now. On
You're
Twitter,
audible now.
my choice to lean into the Gen Z aesthetic of governance was something that was quite intentional for two reasons. The first reason being that democracy is supposed to be the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. However, most countries in the world practice a form of gerontocracy in the sense that many young people are not represented in positions of governance. And I don't think that that's the worst part. And I think that the worst part is the fact that most young people genuinely do not think that they matter or they belong within these spaces. So they are not thinking of how to mainstream their interests in policies because they do not think that they should be in that conversation. That's one part. And the other part is the fact that before I leaned into this aesthetic, this was something that other people were already describing me as. And I was like, okay, it's not so bad to do it. Why not dive in head first? And I think that it has been quite great because I like to say something. When I started the whole governance thing, I started to dress like a 40-year-old civil servant. And I did that for 3 months. I have evidence. I have a lot of pictures. I did that for 3 months. And then I realized that when it comes to work, there are rituals of work and there is substance of work. So rituals of work happen to be the things that people talk about when they work. So you see when the lawyers talk, they say things like affidavit, they say things like the trial, they say things like adjournment, words that regular people do not really understand. Those words might mean very simple things, but they use it to be able to have that, have that communication in-house. Rituals of work also include how people dress, how people look, what people do. But these rituals of work are not actually the things that make that work happen. The substance of work is what makes work happen. So if you're a lawyer and you know all the fancy Latin words, you're saying nemo da quote, you're announcing your appearances well, but you go to court and you ultimately cannot argue your case, you lose. Everybody is entertained. Everybody's like, oh my God, he's so fire, he's doing this, he's doing that. But then you lose and then nobody wants to hire you because you're very ineffective. So I realized that trying to age myself or become older was leaning into the rituals of work at the expense of work in itself. So that's another reason why I decided to make that change.
Interesting. To be honest and to be fair, the law profession has that undertone of you have to be extra serious or no one will take you seriously. My sister is a lawyer herself, and it literally went from a young girl that was very much interested in fashion, in life, in being like cordial with people, to this stock up girl that was wearing black and white all day every week. So I think I 100% relate to what you're saying. I've heard about law school, right? I've heard a lot about law school, and I know you just recently finished from law school. You just got done with your exams. Um, During the time where we were exchanging messages, DMs, and all of that, you would say, "Oh, I'm going off for like 2 weeks. I need to go study. I'm going off for like 1 week. I'm putting off Instagram for a while." Can you tell us a bit about, or walk us through your journey at law school? What was it like for you?
Okay, so I would like to divide this into 3 stages. There's pre-law school, there's law school, and there's bar finals. That is the exams. So pre-law school, there is a sort of narrative about law school, that law school is extremely hard. And this is something that we get from when we are in the universities, even before, for those people who have siblings who eventually take the bar exam. I would not say this narrative is true. I would not say it's false, but I'll explain why this narrative exists. So for legal education in Nigeria, we have the substantive part and the procedural part. So the substantive has to do with the law in itself, the law of evidence. There is a law called the law of evidence. What does the law say? The procedural part is when we get to court, how do we admit the evidence? So now you do all the substance of the law for 5 years, and you do the procedure of the law for roughly 10 to 11 months. So there's a discrepancy, because it seems that all those things that you did in 5 years, it is being packed into a space of 11 to 10 months, and you're supposed to know it. So that's there. Then for the law school experience itself, I would say that my law school experience was very unconventional. And the reason it was so unconventional is that for me, desperate times require desperate measures. Going into law school, there was an atmosphere of fear amongst a lot of students. And for me, in first week, it was a class of 1,200. I had never been in a class of 1,200. The highest number of people I've taken lectures with were probably 100, 120. My graduating class from uni were about 80. So we sit according to groups, and I started off by being in group 10. So group 10 is like the back of the back of the back of the back. So I was seated, and I realized that, you know what, I am very lost. For the first week, I remember the first time I had corporate law class, I felt really dumb. And it was quite sad for me. However, the next day, the next course that we had, I realized that a lot of the questions that the lecturers were asking in front, I could answer them from the back. But because I was seated at the back, and they do this thing where, because we're 1,200, for you to answer questions, you need to use a microphone to amplify your voice. And the microphone was not getting to me fast enough because I was in the back. I was always raising my hands, and it seemed like it was the people in the front that were answering all the questions. So I realized for second week, I decided that, you know what, I will do the foolish thing and go to the front of the class. That's the front seat. So now we're 1,200 in class, and it's hard to find space. But the front seat is always scanty because everybody else is avoiding the front seat, because you are bam in front of the lecturers. Nothing is covering you. You cannot use your phone. You cannot sleep. And lectures typically start from 9 a.m. And for Lagos campus, you are locked in till like 3 or 4. You're doing one course per day. So you're doing it. You can't lock out. So making that decision was the best decision I made in law school, because it changed my law school life. By the next week, I went to the front, and then I realized that I was understanding what was happening. And by the second day of the second week, all the fear of law school had gone, because I was like, damn girl, you know this shit, like, it's not that hard. So now that decision that I chose to make was not a decision that a lot of people made, and most people actively ran away from the microphone and whatever. So for a lot of people, I could see a lot of people that were scared from day one down to the last day of classes, down to the last day of exams. And dare say that number of people were like the majority of people at law school. So law school for me was very experimental. When I was in university, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to my appearance. When I got to law school, I started wearing regulation wear pro max. I call it regulation wear pro max because it is regulation wear, but something somewhere is a little bit wrong with it, because I like to just add in a little bit of something that is fashionable. So most of the time, the people who dress coded us would look at me and see something is wrong, but they don't know exactly what is wrong.
You were gaming the system.
Yeah, unless for the days where I took it a little bit too far. So from my day one to the last day of classes, I was not ugly, and I'm very proud of it. It's such a stupid flex, but there was one time in class that one of the lecturers was like, "What is happening? This was near exam. It's like, when people have exams, they wear all black. That means always changing wigs. What's happening here?" I was just having fun because I didn't know that other people were watching me. But I was able to ask a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive. Many people didn't like me because of that, because most people, it's very funny. It's like, I don't know something, you don't know something, and then I ask that thing that we both don't know, but you're pissed off that I'm asking because your incentive is to get out of class faster. And I feel like it's just redundant when you don't have the knowledge that you need and you just push it to the front, because most likely that thing that you don't know right now, you're most likely not going to know it when you get to the hostel. So why not know it now and then everybody moves on? But I do feel that the 400, how much did we even pay to law school? I think 400 and something thousand naira. I used my law school fees to the last.
I love it.
I maximized my law school. Like, there was nothing I said I would do at law school that I did not do. I did everything. I was happy. I was happy to learn. It was a time. And then for the bar finals, I will not talk about that until when I see my results. Thank you very much.
I love it. You know, one of the things that actually like sparked my interest to reach out to you for a conversation is that I myself, I'm amongst lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm amongst a couple of lawyers, and a lot of people are doing it because they can't do it, or they just have to do it. I don't know if you get what I mean. My parents said I should go to law school. Oh, now I'm a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer is what I'm using to eat, is what brings money. But I see like there's a passion for it that you have that is beyond, oh, I have to do it. To the point of even serving with Ekiti Youth Parliament, which we'll get into very, very shortly. But can you tell us if there's an underlying reason behind your passion for law and politics, or it's just, oh, I'm here, I have to make the best out of it?
Okay, so for as long as I had known myself, I knew that whatever I would do to make money would be something that would involve me talking. I realized quite early that people like to listen to me talk. And people often say, "Oh my God, I didn't know that. Oh my God, I like how you speak." And I was like, maybe they have a point. And when you're in Nigeria and you're in arts class, the next best thing is law. Not to say I hate the law or I love the law, but before I actually signed up to do law, I most likely didn't know what law was about. These days that I am examining my human experience, I am trying to be in tune with myself. If I had this knowledge, which I could not have had until this age, I probably have gone to do philosophy. But philosophy would not have not paid my bills, so law is not paying my bills, but like there's an higher chance that law would pay that more than philosophy. So for me, going into legal education, I don't like to say this because people can throw me stone, but law was surprisingly easy for me to do. It made sense. it just made sense in my head. It just aligned with the way I thought. I like to do law, but before I started doing the law, I wouldn't have known because I didn't have enough information to know. So I like law because there is a sort of exposition that comes from thinking like a lawyer, which a lot of law students hate because it can be quite annoying. So a law, instead of some laws, instead of saying a man and a woman shall, it will say that a man shall, but in some exceptional circumstances, a woman may, if probably. So now, that is a very difficult sentence, but it is there because laws exist to deal with human behavior, and humans tend to find a lot of loopholes. That's why laws have to have exceptions. So the way the draftsman is crafting a law, you're crafting it in such a way that there are some loopholes you're already making some sort of solutions for. So for a lot of law students, they see that and like, why are you stressing me? I see it and I'm like, fuck, I see the draft, man. That's so smart of you, and I like it, and I'm happy, and I move on. So I don't mind being here. I don't think I will continue with law for now, but
Really?
we I like it, but
Oh,
I like other stuff. I feel like with youth inclusion work, the thing about law is that law is good, but at the end of the day, when you go back to fundamental metrics, you can only help one person at a time if you are an advocate. So you have a matter and then you go to court and your client wins, or probably you work on a particular transaction. It's good, but it's in units. When you work on policy, you can reach hundreds and thousands of millions of people at the same time. So it's like you're solving bigger problems. So law is good, amazing, nice, but I think that for me, the older I grow, the more niche I want to concentrate my efforts on. But if it doesn't work out for me, I'll probably dust off my certificate and go and look for one of them. I'm
I
going to
love
beg them,
it. I love it. I love
please give
it.
me a job.
To be fair, I like the perspective on like because to be fair, you're actually right. With policies, you can affect most law. While law is good, because imagine a world where there are no lawyers and we just have people enacting policies. Where would we be? Hard about living law. We'll get to your other interest later, but I want you to give us a little bit about your fair. I have a lot of questions around it. For example, is the youth parliament specific to Ekiti State, or are there youth parliaments across board? Does Edo State have one? Does Osun State have one? And how did you get into the space?
To answer this question, I will be as honest as possible, and the answer I'll give might not be the answer you are hoping for. So the thing with some offices is that they give you a wide blanket of opportunities and you decide how to move on. There's something my boss likes to say, the commissioner for youth development here. He says that the man makes the office does not make the man. So getting into youth parliament, there was no specific blueprint as to what a youth parliament should do or should not do. Youth parliament exists in all 36 Nigerian states. The only reason why you don't know of most youth parliaments is because all they do is post Happy Independence Day, Happy International Youth Day, happy this, happy that, happy. So now for me, getting into parliament, I realized that this is an office. We don't get paid. Most people don't know that because, I don't know, lifestyle, you feel like, this girl now, you look too fine to be working for free. But in a way, it's just the office that gives you a sort of legitimacy. And what this legitimacy does for you is that you can turn it into effort. So for me, I started off with something called the Office of the Deputy Speaker, different from the Parliament. And most people, even within my own Parliament, most people don't have their own unique offices that they use to push whatever things that they want to push. So for me, before getting into Parliament, all these things I do, I already did them. It's like, oh yeah, come into Parliament. And I'm like, very nice. Let me just put in my own agenda into this. My agenda at the end of the day is to intellectualize Nigeria, because I think that many people are very comfortable, and the popular narrative is a narrative that wants people to be dumber for whatever reason, right? That's why we have all this, oh my God, school is a scam. And I will not blame people, because in Nigeria today, it is hard to get direct benefits from education. Things like this do not bear direct fruits. Things like fraud, the nigga is balling, you can see the money. And it's like, yes, it's a fast life, fast, everything fast, everybody wants that, and I understand. But at the end of the day, things like that are not sustainable. Young people have strength, young people have power, and we have to be able to, bring out that strength and that power. Before I was in Parliament, I was 16 years old. I was in the Faculty of Law in my school. I was fighting my fellow classmates, fighting my lecturers, because they were telling me that women were less than. It got to a point that, like, some lecturers would just avoid having some stupid discussions, because they'll be like, oh, this foolish girl is here again. She's going to go against me. She's going to give me logical, like, arguments I can't respond to. So someone like that, you put the person in Parliament, of course I will just shout a little bit louder and just do what I've been doing a little bit more, extend my work. So I think that Parliaments exist. You mostly don't know about them because most young people do not know what to do about it. And how did I get into Parliament? So how Parliament recruiting works differs from, like, state to state. So for my state, we had 2 rounds of interviews, like 5 nominations. They were telling you, go to your local government, go to your king, look for like 3 referees that are in government that are representing your constituency, look for your member in the House of Reps, to be honest, I was someone that didn't know anything about politics, and there are funny stories about how I got that, but it's like stories for another time. But I was able to do that, scale my interviews, and do the principal officer interviews too, and scale that too. So that was how that happened.
Amazing. You know what, like, there's a lot, as you're speaking, there's a lot I'm unpacking here, and I'm actually taking notes for myself, because one of the things I have prioritized for 2025 is like mass education on how politics work in Nigeria, how the law works in Nigeria, especially around electoral law. I was going to get into your opinion on how the elections went last year, but later on. But I think it's a good time to get into it. And one of the things I've noticed is that Nigerians, especially Nigerian youths, like to talk a lot, but there's a lot of ignorance around what Nigerian laws actually are, the people that represent us. For example, just speaking now, you said you had to meet a king or the Oba in your area, you had to talk to so and so person. You can see that politics in itself is very grassrooted, if you get what I mean. And I'm amazed at the fact that a lot of people do not know that these things exist, and they don't know that they can have as little influence as possible in these spaces. So let's drive back to that question. What is your opinion on how the elections went last year, especially from someone who is in the system, if I can say so, at whatever little capacity you're in?
So guys, there's something I like to do. I like to clearly state out my biases before I engage with some subject matters, and I like to be real. I cannot answer your question because I currently work for government. I can't tell you yes, I can't tell you no. I'm very sorry about it, but
no, please, it's fine.
What it is.
Before they'll fire you, please.
It's just, I don't think, like, my personal opinion is it's more of it. To be honest, the way I run my office, I try to run it in a non-partisan way. It's quite funny because what do you mean you're doing politics and you're running your office in a non-partisan way? But it has been working for me. And it's like I say something to myself. I will not take credit for things that other politicians are doing, and at the same time I will not also take the fall for problems that other people have created for themselves. So I will not defend anybody unnecessarily, and I will not also take credit for their actions unnecessarily. If you're my own rep, you're doing something I really like, I can amplify that because I like it, or because I think that more young people should hear about it. But just to do any of those things, I wouldn't do that. I don't see the use, frankly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. As a lawyer yourself, you have meandered your way out of that question, and we'll allow you because we don't want to get you in trouble. But speak to us about someone or maybe people, if necessary, that have had a significant influence on your journey. I know you're very young and you're very exposed as well, but I'm pretty sure that there are people that you see and you're like, this is exactly who I want to be in another 5, 10 years.
Thank you very much for that question. So now let's go back to that first thing I said I would not unnecessarily praise someone, and I would not unnecessarily criticize someone. So now that you asked me this question, I'll sound a bit like a fangirl, but I really, 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 really love the work that Rep Akin Rotimi is the current spokesman of the Nigerian House of Representatives. So first thing is my own rep. So that means that, let me call out that bias, I might be a little bit biased towards him, and he's also a personal mentor for me. So I mentioned that during the time I was looking for that, I had to look for this person, look for that person, look for this person. So for me, I was just doing a series of rapid fire pitches. I was looking for them. Do they have social media? Do they have contacts? Can I nab them in their office? What can I do? I was just walking around. So for him, I pitched. I said, oh, I've been doing this, I've done this, I am from here, I'm in your constituency, I need your recommendation for this. And he didn't ask me for anything extra. And within this space, it's quite sad, but things like sexual harassment and all of that are a thing. I didn't have to go through that. It was just like, oh, I like the fact that you're doing so much, I like the fact that we have people here, and he supported me. So within the last 6 months in the Nigerian House of Representatives, he has brought a bill on independent candidacy. What this bill intends to achieve is that anybody can contest elections without being under the umbrella of a political party, because political parties in and of themselves have been a sort of embargo to democracy, in the sense that parties charge exorbitant fees for forms. A lot of the time, people's personal ideology might not align with the ideology of a political party. Political parties might have godfatherism systems entrenched within the party because of, oh, this is how this thing has been happening for so long. And for you as a young person, it might be hard to go through that system, right? So that independent candidacy bill is something that I think is so amazing. And something that Rep Akintunde Rotimi has done is that for our constituency project, I can say our, because also my constituency, we are doing a school for the for gifted kids. We are doing a motherless babies home. We're also doing a occupational therapy hospital, all at the same time, really. And not just that, there has been a bill on the have we heard of the anti-sexual harassment law in tertiary institutions? He was the one that brought that before
Oh, interesting.
the House of Reps. It has passed now. It is in front of the Senate. He has brought something on disabled, on disability inclusion. He does a lot of disability inclusion work. And in his position as spokesman of the house, he is so active. I see other papers for what happens every week within the house. We have a functioning website in my constituency. You can reach them by that. We have opportunity links. It's very accessible. So for me, right, like I said earlier, I have to call out my biases. But for someone who is very active in the women empowerment space, and I see someone that is doing the kind of work that makes me happy, I think that is someone that many young people need to know about. Is just that kind of person.
Amazing. And indeed, you sound like a fan girl, which is amazing too. It's good to know the people before you so you can make lesser mistakes than they have made and even surpass them in achievements. Amazing. So like what do you think is the biggest challenge for women trying to enter into political spaces in Nigeria, as one who has had to surmount those hurdles yourself in your own experience?
The challenges are linked, and some of them are secular in nature. The first challenge is the challenge that comes from the place of an individual. Most women, young, older, do not see themselves as leaders. This is very bad because the way society is structured, women are only expected to lead when they lead other women. So that's
Mm,
why it's good for women to be minister of women affairs, but beyond that, go and sit down and just find something
right.
better to do. So
Mm-hmm.
for someone like me, I had held a lot of leadership positions in my university, a lot of leadership positions, but in my head I did not think of myself as a leader. Is this like, it doesn't make sense? It took me a long time for me to say those words. Oh, you are a leader, even though I had been leading in various capacities. And for men, it's just like they just do something small and everybody's like, oh, leader, 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 and they're like, yeah, I'm a leader. And I'm like, why is it not the same for me? Why can't I just just be, I'm a leader, and just move on with my life? So I think that on that level, there is that imagination problem because of the fact that we were socialized into this environment. So for women wanting to do leadership, you have to reverse socialize yourself to be able to hold your own ground. That is one. That is exclusion by yourself. So when we clear that boundary, we move a little bit forward. The woman thinks she can be a good leader, and she's trying to do what the male counterpart is also trying to do. We then get to the point of engagement. So now, with women, there is this narrative of how women are not each other's I don't even know how they say that thing. It skips my mind now. So there was this discussion I was having with somebody. She's a very amazing lady, very, very amazing, and she has done so much for me. Like, she's very supportive, she gives me mentorship, we just see each other, and I like what she does. So she repeats that statement, I've gotten it now, about how women are women's worst enemies. And I'm like sitting down in the room,
Right.
and I'm like, you have been helping me so much, I like you so much. What do you mean? Women are like, you have done too much for me to say no.
Yeah.
Because you're literally a woman. So that narrative has permeated into so
Right.
many spheres,
Yeah.
to the point
Yeah.
that the already established women are scared of the women that are upcoming. The women that
Mm.
are upcoming are a little bit entitled, not bad, right? Because I feel like everybody has some degrees of entitlement, and most of the time women expect solidarity from other women without justification, because we are both women. Do you understand? It's
Mm.
like two sides of the same coin. It's like, oh,
Mm.
okay, you should be a girl's girl, which is very valid, but also you shouldn't just expect other women to just accept you, or like, you have to like build community before you start to ask for favors. You can't just be, I'm a woman, you're a woman, let me cash out my check. It doesn't really work that way.
Right.
So that's an issue from the female side. But from the male side, it's a little bit insidious, right? Because help that is insignificant, people want to exchange it for sexual relations. Just something as simple as someone that is special assistant to the special assistant to the special assistant to the special
Tell me
assistant to the
about
special
it,
assistant
Damilola.
wants to sleep
If I
with
start
you
giving my own
to
story, we can
get
sleep here today.
you to see the special assistant. There's a funny story I have, and I always say this story to my guys. Before the whole politics thing, I was trying to run a civil society organization, putting in all my work. Imagine someone trying to get me to exchange sexual favors because it can get me to speak at the conference where I could probably meet some people, some international investors that might probably, fund the projects. You see the level of probabilities that are existing in that space.
Right.
Like,
Nothing is sure.
it's bad if you want me to exchange sexual favors for money, right? Within a working environment. But you are so entitled that you want me to exchange sexual favors for the probability of maybe perhaps somebody else giving me money. It's that bad. And even beyond people that have what you do not have, when you are at the peer-to-peer level, you have like other male counterparts. They genuinely believe that you are less than them. It's very sad, but it's very true. And even though you are doing more work than them, you're pre getting there, you are more qualified. They still genuinely believe that something happened one day. We had a meeting, and we have meetings like that. For us doing a lot of work outside, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that people do not know. There's a lot of controversy, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of problem management. But the fact that people don't know is a good thing, because that means that we've successfully managed the problem, right? Because if you knew about it, that means that the problem was not successfully managed. So because I'm deputy speaker, we have the speaker of the parliament. So he made a certain decision that we were subject to. He was subject to queries from our commissioner. And when we were making the decision, to be quite honest, I didn't execute the decision, but I was part of the people that heard about the decision. And I did not tell him not to do it. And it was a decision that I did for the parliament. So the way I saw it, I felt like collective responsibility. I should hold some responsibility and not just let him get thrown under the bus. So when we were getting reprimanded for that, I obviously spoke up and said, oh, this was what we thought about at the time we were making the decision. And I was just like, yeah, okay, we did it together and we should probably take the fall for it. So when we're done with that meeting and we're just engaging amongst ourselves, like as youth leaders, because they were youth leaders from other factions, somebody just said, oh my God, you're going to be such a good wife. And I'm like, really?
Wonderful.
That's the thing that you saw in all of this. Like, so it's like you have been boxed into a corner and you're supposed to perform according to those metrics that you've been given. So it's like you might do 10 billion things, but you are still that up. So yeah, that's what I feel like are the issues, right? Yeah.
I can imagine, which is crazy actually, reducing you to just your sex and turning a blind eye to the amazing potential, amazing things you're doing. I've been there and I know what it feels like. In fact, almost very recently, I had a very huge squabble with someone from FRSC, the people in charge of giving like driver's license. I was working on my license and this man sat on it for months and months, just because he said I was rude. And I'm asking, like, anytime you will talk to him, like, the woman, no, I get your wife, I get your type for us. I'm like, are you mad? The day I challenged him,
next
took
time
months.
you say that, the day you
Like,
tell them, I have a man at home too, I get your type for us.
Do you understand? I can't even have that type, to be fair. I can't even have that type. but I understand how the system works, and to be fair, it's very irritating, especially if as a lady you've gone the extra mile to develop yourself, you're good at what you do, and you know what you bring to the table. People reducing you to just being a woman and using it as a slaw is something. And this even applies to youth. People reduce you to you're just starting, you're just young. what do you know about life? Because as much as we talk about woman, there are people that look down on you just because you're younger than them, regardless of your experience, regardless of how far you've come, the work you've put in. They just disregard you because you're younger. They don't expect that you should know what you're doing. So these are the many challenges that one faces and you have to fight through in the Nigerian system. But Damilola, enough of
Sorry,
me.
before we go past
Oh,
that,
sure,
there's
please,
something you
please.
said that there's a little bit of nuance in it. So that's youth to older people relations. I've been doing it for over a year and I found out very surprising things. And the very surprising things is that smart people grow older and are still older smart people. Dumb people grow older and are still older dumb people. Because we come across a lot of older dumb people does not mean that all older people are dumb. That's something. And I realized that a lot of young people within governance spaces, there are a lot of problems they face that I don't face. And first, I will first acknowledge privilege, right? Because to some extent, all these parliaments, bang, 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 it's not what is feeding me. So I can do whatever I like because I won't say I have another source of income because it's my mother that is feeding me. But it's like I have the ability to be independent and have autonomy and have choices of my own because I am not held ransom to anybody. So what often happens with young people is you want to do politics, you find one really nice leader and like you just follow the leader. Your leader is doing this, you are reposting, and normally it's part of the rituals of work in the space that I am in. You have to have mentorship because like people have to call people. Is in a way, right? It's like, oh my god, this is godfatherism. Me, I just feel like the difference between mentorship and godfatherism is the point where they tell you something and you do not have the choice as to whether to do it or not do it. I feel like that's the direct difference. And at the end of the day, like there's a lot of referral work going on. It's quite bad and I feel like we should be able to restructure it. But when you're in a system, you have to first understand the magnitude of the problem before you even attempt to solve it. So for a young person follow the leader, they will treat you like that because you're not really adding anything different to the things that they were doing before. And the thing is that when people don't know about stuff, they have some sort of absolute reverence for people who know it. So imagine your parents, those of us that have parents that struggle with smartphones and they're like, I'm trying to log into this, I cannot do this meeting, and you just do the most basic thing and you just do it for them and they're like, oh my god, you're such an engineer, so amazing. So if you can give a sort of value that they would not have gotten without you, even though you are young, they won't treat you like your age, they will treat you like a peer. It's very funny because for me, I don't like to talk about this a lot. I haven't spoken about it publicly before, but for many older people that I meet, they treat me like, I don't know, this is my guy. That's my guy. And it's quite funny. It doesn't mean like you should disrespect them or just assume like because they are actually not your guy. But if you come with a different value proposition, it's quite. And another thing is that for younger people in leadership, it's not everybody that can be your mentor. So if you go and get someone who is not doing much to mentor you, first thing, you will not learn how to work. Second thing, they are going to be scared of you because they feel like, oh, if they empower you, you're going to get better than them. So something happened to me earlier this year, which was quite a doozy. My commissioner was going to see one of the big people in my state. Like, he has a school, he's doing very well, he's contributing, he's like the biggest employer of labor in Ekiti State. And I was like, please carry me along now, please, because I wasn't supposed to be there. So he just took me along and we went there. We had different value propositions because we were trying to convince him to invest in a sort of youth resource center. So now that I've spoken about it, we have a youth resource center within the Ministry of Youth Development in Ekiti State. Young people come there to apply for opportunities, get information on new opportunities, free Wi-Fi, all of that. So when we were trying to put that together, we had to approach him for funding. So when we went there, we had different presentations, we spoke to him, and luckily enough for me, I was allowed to speak. So he loved the way I spoke, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Sir, I'm in law school." He was a lawyer, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so interested. I want to know, what are you doing after now?" And that went like that. So within that space, somebody else called me afterwards and said, "You know what? You know that in this kind of politics thing, you should learn not to shine more than your master, because if you're shining too much, people will be like, she's doing too much, and then you will not get opportunities because people will be scared of you because you will do better than them." And like for me, whatever advice you give me, if it's a bad advice or if it's good advice, I'll be like, thank you for the advice. Oh my God, it's even good that you could even advise me, because some people will even be scared to me. Like, I will try to make you feel good for advising me. I won't tell you if I'll take the advice or not, but I'll appreciate you giving me the advice. What I will do with the advice is my own problem. So I didn't even know that anything insidious was going on. So that happens, and then I head back to school. By the time I come back home, I realize that this person has been doing a smear campaign against me, and like, "Oh, she's incompetent, she's this, she's that." And people were asking me like, "Oh, did you and this guy fight?" And I'm like, "We didn't fight though, like, he just hates my guts," because definitely I did well within that space and he didn't do well. So I feel like that advice was so wrong, but that would be what they would say because they were not able to do that particular thing that I did. So when you unequally yoke yourself to someone who is not doing well, you become doomed to be mediocre as a result. So you have to find a mentor that is doing so well. That's why when I speak about Rebecca Rotimi, I'm always like gassed out. Like, it's always very fangirly of me, because I go online. This week he has made this bill. Next week he has made this bill. Another week, another bill. Another week he's at home, a new project. So it's like, even if I was operating at 200% capacity, there is no way in heaven or hell that I can even outshine this person. So they give you the leeway to work because they are also working. That's how mentorship should be, because the fact that he's at an higher capacity with more resources means that if he uses these resources well, he will do so much better than I am doing. When I went for the legislative mentorship initiative, I do public speaking. People are like, "Oh, you speak so well." But I heard the chairman speak, and it was so clear. It was so clear and so good, and I was like, yes, because I can see people that are clearly better than me. So when you surround yourself with established people that are not so good at what they do, you just fall by the wayside, and then you're ultimately worse off than them. So I think that more young people should not just because this person is in House of Reps or is a senator, is a governor, that is good. You should probably be nice to them. You should probably network with them. But for you to say this person is my leader, you have to be calm. You have to see what they are willing to offer. And when you find someone who has something very good to offer, it's like, you're going to be unstoppable together. I feel like that's what a good mentorship thing should look like. When I was at the Obasanjo fellowship about 3 weeks ago, and he was introducing one of his mentees, or his main mentee, to us. And as he was speaking about him, I could see a sort of glinter in his eyes, and I'm like, why are you so happy? Like, why is Baba this excited? And when the man came to speak to us, he was not in politics, or he is not in politics, but he's an hotelier. It's like one of the biggest hoteliers in Africa right now. He's about 40 years old. He has hosted Meghan Markle. He has hosted different presidents. He's doing so much. And it's like, Baba is so clear. This man is so clear. And it's working well because both of them are conquering in whatever fields they choose to do. So I think that that's just how to be excellent, in my own opinion.
Amazing, amazing. I've taken some notes myself. Getting into this year, one thing I wanted to do as a matter of like importance was get someone who had taken the exact same path I am taking currently across sustainability and like climate change, waste management, etc. The SDGs, and I found like 3 people, and every now and then, very often, I go to their page on LinkedIn and I see the courses they've taken, I see the places they are at. I just look at their life's journey and start to think of how I can align mine to theirs. It's the fastest way to get to where you want to get to. I promise you. There will be lesser mistakes, there will be more alignment, and you find that you're making exponential progress. You're also learning from their mistakes and avoiding those mistakes as well. So I buy into that. Secondly, one of the things I got while you were speaking is that there are so many opportunities in Nigeria. We're just now you don't know. Now you don't know, right? And it's one of the things that intrigued me when I started to follow your profile and all of that. I was like, Youth Parliament, never heard of such a thing. There is such a thing. And I'm hearing that it's across different states in Nigeria now, which is exciting. So it would be great to see more people plug into that. We need to be more involved. We can't say the older people are making bad decisions that are affecting us in our youth, and then we're not interested in getting involved. Who is in charge of your area? Who is your local government chairman? How can I get involved in the grassroots? Right. So get involved, get involved. We're supposed to finish this space by 6, so I have 2 extra questions for you before we close. What's a project or initiative that you're most excited about, Damilola, currently?
Okay, to let the cat out of the bag, and I will let the cat out of the bag because it will make me more accountable to finish this thing fast. Last year, I encountered a problem, and that problem was that people from other states, women from other states, were reaching out to me to say, "Oh my God, this thing happened to me in Kano State. This thing happened to me in Abuja. This thing happened to me in Lagos. What do I do?" And honestly, I don't know what you should do because I'm in Ekiti State and I work for the Ekiti State government. So over time, I started to think, how can we solve this problem? How can we get help to people across different states at the same time? What can I do? So I decided to make a directory of NGOs, of response centers, and of aid services for all states across Nigeria. I've been working on it. I'm almost done. And I think that that's the thing I'm most proud of because most when I started doing the work was when I realized that to some extent some directories already exist, but those directories are like, let's say for feeder, just feeder now, feeder might have a directory. So for National Human Rights Commission now, it might have a directory. For sexual assault response centers, they might have their own directory, but they are very scattered across the internet, and there is no specific space where you can get everything all at once. So what I'm doing is putting everything together and doing something that is
Amazing.
very comprehensive with addresses, phone numbers, emails, and all of that. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Interesting and amazing. That's amazing. You should follow through. Actually, you should follow
I'm
through.
almost
I
done
see
though.
that.
It's remaining Human Rights Commission. I don't know why I've been stalling on that, but I'll finish it. Now that I've spoken about it publicly, Sheto can call me tomorrow and say, "Where's your directory?"
Ah, ah. Please finish it because I'm sure it will reduce like a lot of process. It will help as well. I speaking about it, I can already see the loopholes that will be covering for us. So you should finish it. Last question. What's one thing you're looking forward to next year? What should we when we get to your page? What should we be expecting to see going forward?
Yo, the rule about that means don't expect any. Don't. What's the word? Expect the unexpected. So now there's something I'm doing right now that is going to shock everybody. If I succeed at doing the thing that I am doing, then everybody will be like, "What's this girl doing?" But the thing with me is, I'm a woman of many interests. I like being fine. I like doing politics. I like doing law. I like to talk. So next year, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing next year. I have a lot of things that I'm running after right now. Whichever can give me the biggest bag and the biggest impact is what I'm going to do ultimately. I I feel like life is to be lived. If next year I can see someone to fund my lifestyle and make me happy, I can see I'm not even working again. Let me be doing my philosophy and watching videos and reading books. So I don't know. I cannot say because even I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm all for that. Whatever comes, comes. Even though it's too late in my life for me to do that right now. But whatever rocks your boat and whatever, and you're young. The world is literally your oyster. It's time to explore. It's time to see what's going to work and what's not going to work at this point in your life. So fair
So I
enough.
feel
Fair enough.
like my theme song is "Let It Go" from Frozen. I'll just be saying, "It's time to see what I can do to break the
I
limit.
love it.
No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free." Cause for
I
me,
love
right,
it. I love it.
money is not really a motivating factor. Even though I was saying like if I get someone to pay my bills, I'll probably be reading philosophy. That's a lie. I wouldn't do that. I like the things I do too much. But it's just that for me, if I can work and see results, because before Parliament, I was running my civil society organization. If you told me this time last year that I'll be doing politics, I probably have laughed in your face. So I've learned not to pigeonhole myself to anything. The world is quite a big place, and there are so many opportunities. This is going to be my closing statement because you can start to hear ping, 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 ping. I need to get somewhere. I'm on the road. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I had a lovely time. This is the first
Thank
time in a
you.
long time that I've been able to actually
Oh,
say my mind
I love
about
it.
the things that I feel. I have been quite vulnerable. I'm trying to master that with humor. I'm literally
Oh,
crossing the road right now. Thank
please,
you so much for
our
having
Gen
me.
Z honorable, cross the road well. Let nothing happen to you,
Bye
please.
guys. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so
It
much.
was a
Thank you
lovely
so
time.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damilola. Everyone, this conversation is going to be uploaded on Spotify and YouTube as well. So you can go listen to the rest of it online. We're going to share the link. Really, the link is Sustainability Matters with Agatha. I was going to get to ask Damilola about the SDGs, but it seems she's in a hurry. So we'll leave that for next time. This is going to happen next week with another guest. So hopefully, we're able to have all of you around one more time. Thank you so much for joining in. It's 6 p.m. Let me let you all back to the rest of your day. Thank you and good night. Good night, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to Sustainability Matters. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget, new videos premiere on our YouTube channel every Wednesday. Follow us across our social media pages to stay updated on the great content we have for you. Until next time, stay green and stay inspired.